evaluation. He has presented at numerous peer-reviewed academic conferences and has delivered many presentations as a workshop facilitator, keynote, and motivational speaker. He loves people, food, fashion, and traveling. And I can honestly say that if you have met him, you love him too. And if you haven't met him, you're in for a treat, and you will end tonight knowing that you love him as well. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Campbell. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gail. And thank you for using the word love. It's a powerful word. It's an important word. It's a word we don't get to use as much as we should, especially in education. And so that is quite important. I want to also say thanks, Natasha, for that powerful land acknowledgement and land back, I would say, lecture, which is absolutely necessary and absolutely important. A lot of things that we talk about and we engage in, I think more and more we are learning that we do not know. And so whenever we come to any kind of space, the learning, the unlearning is absolutely important. And thank you so much for that. It is appreciated. And I sat here and every word. And one thing more I say as I segue into what I'm going to talk about is you talk a lot about the land back and honoring the land and understanding why we are doing what we're doing. And it's a part of what we're going to talk about today is resistance as a part of our conversation. So thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. I'm talking to you. So welcome again, everyone, as we engage in a conversation about intersectional realities, exploring blackness and queerness in education, together resisting, supporting, and healing. And that is our real focus this afternoon in our conversation is those three words: resisting, supporting, and healing. I'm excited. I was very excited, to be here as always, because you're supposed to be interested and excited in what you're doing. Let me fix my screen a little bit. In what you're doing. But I'm also more excited, honestly, about the panel that is coming up right afterwards, because there's so much nuggets and so much ideas. We will get to hear from all of these persons as they share with us how they are doing their walk and how they are navigating spaces. And we are here to talk about three words: resisting, supporting, and healing in the LGBTQ, Black LGBTQ space. And what I'm excited about this is because we know when we talk about equity and we talk about inclusion is that the LGBT space in North America is, of course, one of those privileged spaces as well, where cisgender white men, take up a lot of that space in it. And we want to think about creating space, and that's why my slide still said Black Lives Matter, because we're talking about blackness and queerness and the many things that happens at those intersections. But you may ask yourself, why is a conversation like this necessary? Why is this necessary? Well, first of all, we are in the month of May, Idaho. We recognize or acknowledge Idaho, which is the international, which we talk about, all the homophobia, transphobia, right? And we need a space for us to have those supporting conversation. We need a space to have those healing conversation, but we also need that space to have those resisting conversation. And that is why I'm so happy for the team, for the theme. But while we're planning this event, or I'm part of the conversation, it wasn't new to me that it was maybe difficult to get enough participants to be part of a panel like this. And you may ask why. This is Canada 2021. Everybody is supposed to be out and proud and about and not fair, but that is not true. That is absolutely not true. Many of us still live in fear. There are many educators who still live in fear, right in Canada 2021. Fear of discrimination, fear of hate and homophobia, fear of transphobia, fear of a backlash, fear of losing out opportunities if they come out the closet, fear of being silenced and ridiculed and stigmatized and excluded once if they come out the closet, fear of the very school and colleagues that they interact with every single day. Fear of the families that they have created for themselves and the families that they were born in. You know, I'm from Jamaica. So so I understand that fear too well. I understand what it feels like to be a teacher in Jamaica and have to have those emotional gymnastics to ensure that the community and the parents do not find out about your sexuality. Because of course there can be detrimental impact, but also professional and career impacts. But I also want to remind us that there are still over 73 countries that where homosexuality is still illegal and still a criminal offense. So yes, there is need for us to have these conversations about resisting. There is need for us to gather to talk about resisting because people are still losing their jobs. So last year, I remember last year, Idaho, the theme was breaking the silence. And I want to bring forth two slides from that very presentation I made last year about the reason why many of us keep silent, even in our schools and our communities and our families, why we keep silent. I've seen so many LGBTQ persons, Black LGBTQ persons, who the closest person to them do not know about their sexuality, and because they're silent, because they're living in fear. So why do we keep silent? We keep silent because of the fears. We keep silent because of our friends and our families, workplace, religion, customs, and shame. A very big one is shame. You know, people look at me today and they said, you know, Dr. Campbell, you're such a advocate. You're such a voice for Black LGBTQ and those who are marginalized and all the inequities. And let me just say this. I am an advocate, a voice, one of those voices crying out, so to speak, for all inequities. All inequities. And so you may say, well, were you always like this? And I want to say to you, no, I was not. Absolutely not. You have to remember, I've come from a place where I was scared of my own shadow because I was taught to feel that something was wrong with me. I was taught that I was not made properly. I was taught that I was broken and defected. I was taught that the Creator, you know, many of us who are Christian like myself, you were taught that Jesus made a mistake on you. You know, you don't make well, so to speak. And of course, then you go to church for that refuge. And then when you reach to church like I did, then you are taught something else. Not that you're just defected and you're affected, you may be infected, you are actually not made good, you're defected, but also in a Christian context, you may be demon possessed. And so we wonder why suicide rate of our LGBTQ people are so high, because you are made to feel in a space that you do not belong. Those narratives are the narratives we want to resist. We want to encourage all of you as educators and students and everybody who is listening that you need to resist people telling you that something is wrong with you. We need to resist the feeling of shame, because I'm going to tell you this. You do not benefit from that. You do not benefit from the silence. You do not benefit from shame. Shame is a stain on many of us. Many of us refuse to live our best lives. We love to talk about living your best lives. Many of us, we refuse to live our best lives because we're ashamed. I told a story many times and I'm going to tell it again. I had a young man I know in Jamaica, a wonderful young man who is so gifted and talented. And of course, he found out, I think he knew that, you know, he was effeminate, but he also knew that he was gay. And years after he went away, and they called me one day and he said to me, I have some great news to tell you. And he said, you know, I don't sing anymore. I don't dance anymore. I don't do this anymore. I don't do that anymore. And he kept telling me all the things he's no longer doing. Things that were authentically himself. Things that made him who he is. But because they were associated with a man who sing or dance or do certain things, then he didn't want to be classified as gay. And of course, what happened is that when we continue hurting ourselves as LGBTQ people, we start to hurt each other. What do I mean by that? Our silence is dangerous. So what do we mean by that? We started living a lie. We started telling ourselves a lie and we start believing a lie. And so I want to encourage you that, your silence is dangerous. So you need to speak up for yourself because silence can hurt. Silence is not living. Silence is suffering. And so speaking up, affirming who you are, telling yourself who you are and loving who you are is important for resistance. Because I'm going to tell you this. Lady Billings 2015, she had an amazing quote that I want to share with you. She said, we're talking about Black LGBTQI plus persons now. So we enter the society raced. We come to school raced. We apply for jobs raced. We enter the marketplace raced. We can never leave our race at home or on a shelf. And that is why race matters. There are a lot of us who do not understand why race is such an important topic. Because you cannot leave your race. You cannot leave that on a shelf. When you walk into your room, when you walk into any space, one of the first thing that goes before us is our identity, our race. So we are plagued by the social construct, and we have to find ways to live our lives and participate. Notice my choice of word. Live our lives and participate in society with one aspect of our identity that seems to enter the room before we do. I have seen many times that my sexuality, my blackness, my Jamaicanness enters the room before I do. Before they introduce me, my sexuality, my blackness, my Jamaicanness has already been in that room. How do you run away from living your best self? How do you run away from who you are? If you keep doing that, then of course you're going to be out of breath. Out of breath emotionally. You're going to be out of breath financially. You may be out of breath family-wise, out of breath professionally, because you keep running a race that is almost impossible. We are Black 365 and we are 2S LGBTQ plus 365. There is no escaping from that. And so we must resist. And resisting, this is a quote from my book. Resisting is a tool, but cannot be our only tool. It is my job, therefore, to ensure that I open the dialogue, unpack the issues, attack the facade and persistence, and unclothe the truth. I remind my teachers in training, and of course teachers now, and those active in the classroom of the power that they have to heal or to hurt. Of the power that they have to a child to feel either frail or fabulous. Of the power that they have to exclude or to include. Education is advocacy. And that is why I'm so happy that we are here to talk about blackness and queerness in education, because this is a space in which we operate. This is our home. We are educators. This is a room full of teachers and educators. This is our space. How do we resist in that space? And I want to leave that with you. Resisting is really about living your best life. There are many ways we can resist, but I want to bring forward to every single educator, every single Black LGBTQ person, that your major resistance should be living your best life, being your best self. Not silencing yourself so others could be seen. I'm going to tell you a story. I came out to my mom a couple years ago. I was always out, and being out is a process for every one of us. There is no out and done. I'm sure you know that. Some of us, there are some people who have to come out almost every single month. There are some persons who have to keep coming out every single year. Why, you ask? Because every time you go into another space, you have to decide how to navigate that space. I can tell you tons of fearful stories about people who came out. But I can tell you way more amazing stories about the freedom when people came out. The burden that was lifted from being your true self. And so I want to leave that with you. The next thing I want to go to is supporting. I want you to understand that those of you who are listening, those of you who will listen, those of you who have a conversation with Black LGBTQ persons, that we want you to be an ally. You know, I was saying this. I remember years ago when people talk when we were asked to be tolerated. LGBTQ persons usually said, "At least you could tolerate us." And then we realize that you should not be living your life to be tolerated by anyone. And we dare say we want to be at the place where we are celebrated. But I do get it. If you will never get to the place to celebrate me and who I am, I'm actually fine with that. But one thing I will tell you, I don't want to be tolerated. I want to be respected. Respected for who I am as an educator, who I am as a black educator, who I am as a black queer educator, who I am as a black queer educator who is an immigrant, who I am as a black educator who is an immigrant with a beautiful Jamaican accent. I want you to respect who I am. And that's how you can support me. Another way we have to talk about is supporting of each other. There are many of us in the LGBTQ community like myself who you have gone to a level of, I would say a level of emancipation. Let me use that word. You have gone to a level of emancipation because it's a process. And you have gone to that level where you can now look back and bring others with you. And that's the power of advocacy. That's the power of support. That when you are reached and when you feel safe or when you feel that you're at a place where you are comfortable, then you bring others along with you. And I think sometimes we forget that we owe each other that kind of love. I'm going to use that word, that kind of love, that when we look back and bring others with us. And that is why I'm so passionate about the work that I do in the LGBTQ community, the work that I do in school, the work that I do in the courses I teach, the work that I do in writing the courses. We have to know how to support others. I wrote a course for the University of the West Indies 11 years ago. 11 years ago, I wrote a course for the University of the West Indies in called Responding to Diversity in Education. And there was a unit in that course on LGBTQ issues in the Caribbean. And I'm saying this for the record. I was asked by the course developers, I was asked by the university to remove that unit from the course. I want you to listen to me carefully. The course was about diversity. They were okay with me talking about gender, disabilities, every single area, mental health, issues of health, every single area except LGBTQ issues. They asked me to remove that unit from the course. I resisted, I refused. I resisted, I refused. They allowed it to stay. The September when the course was offered for the first time, 11 years ago now, let's remember now, context. Over 160 students signed up for that course. Yeah, about that. Because I was a course coordinator. And I had students writing me to tell me they would not do certain assignments because of they were Christians, and those assignments would infringe on their Christianity. I want you to listen to me carefully. The assignments had nothing to do with telling you how to be gay. The assignment was centered in love, compassion, and empathy. And that is what I know when I used to be in church more regular than I am today. That's what we learned. That's what it was about. How do you love your neighbor as yourself? So that was such a controversy for me and such almost ridiculous. But I resisted again by teaching the course and continue the course. And that course has been offered for the last 10 years. And I taught that course for the last 11 years. And I taught that course for 9 of those 11 years. And every single time I had educators saying to me, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for this course. So there's many ways to resist and many ways to support. I want those of you who are listening to me to figure out how will you support each other and how will you support LGBTQ issues. I bring to you the case of Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. I follow the story when their son came out as transgender. And I follow the story, and I was shocked. I'm not sure why, but I was shocked the number of vile and hate comments that was posted on pictures of their daughter now. And about the parents. And I say to myself, how do you expect parents to support their children? So I want to call on all of you, especially those of you who are colleagues and your parents. I want you to understand that the most important thing you can do to support someone who is LGBTQ, who is suffering, who is going through a rough time, who is struggling with their identity, who is struggling with their sexuality, who is struggling with their family, struggling to come out, struggling because, of course, it's that much. I want you to understand one of the biggest support is love. I love this slide. It says, I am a safe person. So as you're thinking about support, I want you to ask yourself, am I a safe person? Am I a safe person? That if someone is LGBTQ+, if someone is black or brown or Asian or any race or coming out or anything, you are always a safe person and will hold a space for them. I close with healing. Powerful word. Many of us are still in the healing process. Healing process will take different levels and different times for other persons. But one thing I could tell you, that you must work on that self-healing. You must work as black LGBTQ persons. We have so many other issues going on with. We have to make sure we work on our healing. A lot of us, I see broken people doing the work. I see broken people trying to mend spaces. If you are broken, it's going to be a little bit harder or difficult for you to mend spaces. If you are so broken, it's going to be hard for you to feel safe. If you are so broken, it's going to be hard for you to be brave. If you are so broken, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to be an advocate or an ally. We want you to work on your healing. I have seen persons who are so focused on resistance. I want you to get this. I have seen persons who are so focused on resisting, they forget healing. And that is why, if you follow me on social media or anything, you'll notice I will post the strongest messages about my work. I will post everything you want about equity, diversity, inclusion, homophobia, Islamophobia, anti-black racism, racism, you name it. All the inequities I will post about. And just take a note, in the middle of all of that, you'll notice I post a picture of myself having a glass of wine. Or if you follow me on certain platform, you'll see a picture of me on a beach or in a bathtub somewhere or at a restaurant eating and just having a good time. And you may look at the pictures and wonder, well, Dr. Campbell is doing, what is this? That is for those who did not figure that out yet, that's very intentional. I want you to understand, when you do the work of resisting, you need to create space for healing. When you do the work of resisting, you need to create space for self-care. When you do the work of resisting, you must create space for self-love. Many ways that we are hurt. We are hurt because we are in denial. We are hurt because we're invisible. We are hurt because we have families who have disowned us and abandoned us. We are hurt because some of us are still begging for our love from our families who some of you have not figured out yet. You will not get the love from those family members. You need to learn how to love yourself better, love yourself more, heal from that hurt and move on. You have to heal by self-love. I've said this many times, and I know sometimes people have been offended by it, and I have no apology. I love no one more than I love myself. I'm going to repeat that. I love no one more than I love myself. And if you know me, if you don't know me, you'll be like, well, that's a little bit selfish. And I'll say to you, imagine how I love myself. Imagine the love I have for myself, that I can take that love and give to others. And that is why I think I have such healthy friendships and healthy relationships and healthy relationships in my school, with my students and my colleagues. I have teachers from Jamaica, from the Bahamas, from everywhere, even America, where I taught for only a short time. I have colleagues I am still this close to today, because the love I have for myself is the love I share with them. So I want to leave you with this. Remember that in every single thing we do, there are many ways to do it. Sometimes we get caught up because we see Natasha doing it this way, or Naomi doing it this way, or Gail doing it this way, or Dr. Campbell doing it this way. I want you to realize there are many ways for you to resist. There are many ways for you to support, and there are many ways for you to heal. As we think about who we are and as we get into the panel discussion, which I'm excited about, I want you to remember it's your job to resist those that seek to destroy you, to resist spaces and places and faces. Did I say that? You resist places and spaces and faces that seek to destroy you, seek to not honor who you are, seek to not respect who you are. And I want you to support others. Support. Although you are also a part of that damage. Some of us are stronger, a little bit stronger. Take that little bit and support others. And those who are listening who do not identify as LGBTQ, or you do not even identify as black, I want you to understand your role in being an ally. I want you not to be a performance or allyship of convenience, but a true ally. And then last but not least, remember, in all that we do, we must attend to our healing. We must attend to our healing. Nothing feels good like feeling whole. Nothing feels good like feeling whole. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my keynote. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to stop that sharing. I'm going to ask that we get into the space now when we move on to our panel discussion.